What's up, guys? Vince Reddy here, and yeah, welcome to my review of the Wonka movie, which I just finished. And pretty much it took me this long because I started watching a bit of it. Now it's, you know, which of course, when it was released like digital, I didn't really go to theaters to see it, and I haven't been into the theaters in a while. But yeah, officially saw it, finished it, here in this year of 2024. Just giving my thoughts. And yeah, especially how I just finished it like a few minutes ago. And I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. Saw a couple of reviews to be honest. And yeah, I guess I feel like I do have my source of my opinion on this movie. It was it was a treat knowing that for so long I have ever since, and listen, I don't know if I ever saw the second Willy Wonka movie. The first one was always the one that really brought me back because it was the first one that I watched that with my grandma and also with grandpa when he was alive. And it was a movie that just the aesthetic and everything surrounding that movie alone, especially as a kid watching it, like it was just it's always nostalgia whenever I think about that movie because there was a lot of moments, especially seeing that many times, with my family and some other times with my cousins. And I don't know, I just it always comes back to that movie to rewatch it again and again. It always shows on TV, especially, around the 90s. And I especially how long time ago it is, that movie, a long time ago. It's still something I always come back to and I remember. And it kind of brought in this like light of environment of just like what a world be if it was filled with chocolate. And also just, and I feel like I could have watched that before watching Wonka because this is basically the origin story of the Wonka movie. And this, Willie as a character within this movie itself kind of lives on to the one that I remember as a kid of watching the old Willy Wonka movie, where sporadic, musical, and just magical, whimsical in so many ways, where that this movie kind of lives up to. And I do love the musical parts of surrounding it, and I really enjoy most of like just the aesthetic, and especially going to Europe soon. I just love seeing just how the buildings look. I don't know where it was taken. It's probably in France or Italy that this movie was taking place in. But yeah, I'm going back and forth with the old movie and the new movie because this is all based in the same place because of course it's about Wonka, and also how he was brought up and seeing the origin of just like the explanation of what he what Willy Wonka does and also why he does it. And it's all stem from just like his past and especially from his mother. And just seeing that, especially and I know there's going to be spoilers here and there, minor spoilers. I'm gonna try my best. But the golden ticket, man, that was something. I was like, where's the golden ticket? I was like, oh. And it kind of makes almost sense, like, they draw that parallel from the movie long time ago, like, with the golden ticket, how it's like a life-changing experience. That is almost beyond life-changing emotionally. Just seeing that, I was like, that's it. But and just that alone, I'm like, yep, this movie is a 10. I don't know what it is. I love the musical. I love the visuals, the the creativity. I feel like they gathered that guy that was like well known in Instagram and TikTok when it comes down to making the chocolates here and there out of like statues in here. Like I hope that's the case because he makes so many things out of chocolate. And I feel like, man, that would be perfect for a Willy Wonka movie. And I feel like Willy Wonka is in some cases inspired by that. I feel like this random French guy that actually is, known for making chocolate Instagram. I can't think of the name at the moment. Was inspired by Willy Wonka. And Willy Wonka, you just see him just like, and especially during this movie, makes all these creations, all this artistic creation, being artistic, but also making chocolate taste good, even though they don't really necessarily need to because we don't know what the chocolate tastes like. But the way that they describe the chocolate saying this from this country or this from that country, and how it's all blend together, how they use a particular milk for it. There's certain aspects of that where it could be authentic to chocolate making. And I guarantee you the reason why it took me this long to review this movie is because that um I was in a phase where I was waiting to see the doctor. And since my doctor's appointment is over, because I do need to be healthy in order to have a good checkup, now since that's over, I can eat all the chocolate I want, all the sweets and stuff like that, even though I shouldn't. And then I think to myself, like, oh yeah, that Willy Wonka movie, because the movie, any movie that showcases chocolate, sweets, and all that stuff, makes me want to eat chocolate, makes me want to eat sweets. And for this particular time, eating sweets while watching this movie, I could have had it was the best moments I ever had. Because that's the thing about the older movies, is that I wanted to eat chocolate. I wanted to eat sweets. I wanted to eat whatever it is on screen. And now, since I'm an adult and I can do that with my own money and watching this movie, I'm like, I'm just living the dream. I was like, damn, what a time to be alive. Oh, eating all this chocolate and stuff like that that's right near me. But healthier chocolate. Well, some would say healthier chocolate. It's a good amount of chocolate, knowing that my doctor wouldn't be, happy about. But since that's over, I'm like, yo. And I didn't end up like freaking like guy from Keen Peele that is just chubbed up with chocolate, and just like, man, how good is that chocolate? And it's like just the perfect amount, how rich it is and stuff like that. It didn't give you like a full bar or anything, but from this guy, he just suffers that, because I know chocolate is rich, and I felt that richness through this movie. It really kind of visualizes the taste of what it gives. You can almost smell it from just the movie alone, how, from the looks of it. And just especially with the musical numbers, I do have to say, like, I enjoyed some of it. There was some where I'm like, when I first heard the tracks when of the Oompa Loompa, like, sounds, but I just was like, oh yep, oh yeah, and I started singing, and I'm like, oh, I remember this. I remember. You can't forget about it. And Pure Imagination. And I was thinking, like, man, they could have, imagine they chose Groban's, like, remix of, well, not remix, cover of Pure Imagination. But the way they sing it, the way that Timothy Chalamet sings this song particularly, and I hope he's the one that's singing it, he timed it emotionally. I couldn't stop singing the song after that. It's like, and pretty much, for whatever reason at this moment I can't, and Pure Imagination, I can only sing some of the tracks. If the song was starting, I would know all the tracks immediately, and that's what happened with this movie, is that I was singing it the moment he goes into that timing. Da, 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 it's like there's that pause where he stops and he goes into it in such perfect timing. He takes a breather, and like, and the next verse goes in. I'm like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Like, it is so magical the way to do that so consistently, but timed it very well just to give that emotional oomph. And especially with the scene, especially the final scene, which I won't spoil. I'll try not to spoil, but if that final scene, you know, with the hug. Ah. And also the scene with the chocolate and the gold ticket, like I mentioned before, I'm like, oh, just everything. And also, I don't know what understand with the three villains. I don't know if I would say they're like, anything serious, at least in my hand. But yeah, the freaking like identity of, within this world, they pretty much like it. They're comedic, but there's something about specifically the main villain, which I always kind of think is the main villain, that is like main one that happens to be Noodle's uncle. I'm like, what? That is in. Okay, that's a spoiler. You know what? This is a spoiler now. I just spoiled it for you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When I heard it, I was like, no, what? And the way how dark it is. But there's something about him where I'm like, I feel like punching him just doesn't do justice, because there's just something about him. Like, okay, this guy's a cartoony villain. Let's be honest here. He's cartoony, whacking the brain. there's something about him where I don't think of him as possessed, but I also think of him as like cartoonic. Like that's not real. That's just like, it's kind of like, I'm about to kidnap you and your kids. Like those One Piece villains. It kind of felt like that. It felt very cartoonic and very, and I'm just like, what am I? Okay, because that's what it is. It's a kids movie. It's so like just whimsical and yet comedic in its own sense, but also just magical and just like it's supposed to be in some ways as an animation, but it isn't. It's a live action just beauty and just like what it gives off, the magic that Timothy really puts on throughout this whole stage, not just the good looks but also throughout this whole movie. I'm like, I like it. Now, there's some parts of this movie, well, I will say, I don't really feel comfortable knowing, seeing, like, this big guy with the trousers. I'm like, ugh, okay, I don't want to see that. So there's some parts where I was like, not only cringing from that, but I was looking away and I was like, okay, I don't want to see that, man. I don't, like, there was just like, okay. But other than that, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the characters, especially the four, you know, ones that actually helped Willy Wonka and also Noodle in a sense. Like, so the introduction of Noodle and who she is. Like, there's a part of me when seeing that scene with the, big giraffe, if that she was, I feel like, okay, I think I know where they're going with this. It feels a little too, like, cartoony, but I feel like it's supposed to be. Willy Wonka is just this magical like kids book that is lively, that is more than just the taste, but it's as the ticket says, the more that you share with it, it's something about that where I'm like, yeah, this will live in my head for eternity almost. Just like the Willy Wonka movie, whenever I think about chocolate itself, man, you for whatever reason, it's crazy because even though it's not crazy, but it is, I always think about Wonka. I always think about Willy Wonka and the chocolate and just all that. Like when it comes to many movies, there's not a lot of them that makes me want to eat chocolate. Yes, we have Instagram. Yes, we have TikTok. We can type in chocolate and then we're hungry for chocolate. I'm talking about before that. There's no other source or movie that made me like want chocolate. It's kind of like the Ed, Edd n Eddy. I don't know why I mentioned Ed, Edd n Eddy, but I don't really like jawbreakers when I first, had them. To me, they're just like what is this stuff? It's like the most lowest candy. Are you serious right now? But at the same time, what made me want to get a jawbreaker as a kid? Dumb decision. Why? I don't know. You know why? Ed, Edd n Eddy. I was watching Ed, Edd n Eddy a lot as a kid. Made me want to try Jawbreaker because that whole time I'm like, okay, why is it so freaking good about Jawbreakers? The same thing with chocolate. Like, what is so good about chocolate? And chocolate is good, but man, this movie made it even better. It tastes better. The moment I ate while watching it, I was like, this is the life. This is what I've been missing, huh? And it just feels good to be that because usually as a kid you be eating sweets and just you have all the freedom in the world. I feel like a kid again. If I gotta be honest, when watching this movie, there's parts of me where I'm not a kid. Like there's some like, okay, the villains did that. Well, we gotta call the popo out. Bring the lawyers in. Oh, they're going up in space, boy. They're about to die if they fall. It's just like, yep, they're going places with that one. But also, I'm just like, you know what? I feel like happy just seeing all this out of play. And pretty much even though it was like stretching like parts and stuff like that, it still felt that magic when I first saw it. Like and I wasn't excited for a new Wonka movie at all. But this movie itself, it did what it had to do. It didn't really excite me, but it put me in a different world, and that's all you need to do with a movie like this. Is that each step I was like, yes, it's kind of like the same effect that I had with the Polar Express, or just like any other magical movie like that, which is mostly Christmas movies. But for this one, this was not Christmas. This was just about chocolate, about, and in some ways about small businesses, but also about following your dreams. And I give a toast to that. Anyways, yeah, that I'm just sharing my thoughts about this movie. I know I'm late on it, but I knew I need the right time to actually gorge on some chocolate and enjoy Willy Wonka, because I feel like you gotta actually have some chocolate while watching this movie. Now, keep in mind, you probably have to look away in some parts. Okay, there's some parts I'm like, okay, what is that? What are we doing here? Wait, don't put your leg down. But at the same time, the other parts, I'm like, yo, this is what I came to see. Much, much, much. Anyways, I'm out of these streets. One love and a peace, and yeah, follow your pure imagination. Okay, that I'm congested. Why do I have to sing? One love and a peace. God bless.